The Southwestern Company presents My Fun with Reading.
Book 3, Stories about World Cultures.
Open Book 3 to the Contents page. You'll see that the stories in this book are Daughter of the Incas, Okena Greets the Sun, and The Water People.
On the last page of each story are 2 word lists. What does it mean, and how do you say it? That's where you go if you're having trouble with hard words.
Whenever you hear this sound, please turn the page. Let's try it.
Now you should be on the page that says, Daughter of the Incas. Are you ready to read? Here we go.
Daughter of the Incas. In a valley 11,000 feet above the sea, a girl named Delia is picking quinoa seeds. Quinoa is a hardy plant that grows well in the thin, cool mountain air. Delia's family will use the seeds for making flour and thickening soups. But this morning, Delia is not thinking about flour or soups. Her mind is in another place, a place of mystery. She will be going there soon. It is time. Delia hurries across the fields to her house. Like the mountains themselves, the house is made of dirt and stone. Her big sister Estefa waits at the gate. Mariluz, her little sister, peeks out from behind. Her mother sits nearby, spinning yarn. Delia's father brings his plow in from the fields. He changes clothes. Then he, Mariluz, and Delia walk down to the main road to wait for a bus to pass by. Finally, an old bus chugs up, and they climb on. It rattles off down the road. Delia gazes out the window and smiles. High peaks surround her village like the points of a crown. She never grows tired of looking at them. Delia's village, or pueblo, is called Huancaye. It is in a valley high in the Andes Mountains of Peru. The area is sometimes called the Sacred Valley of the Incas because it was the center of the ancient Inca Empire. The Incas were a strong, proud people. They ruled the area from about 1200 to 1550. Their empire once stretched over 2,000 miles, from Colombia in the north to Chile in the south. The empire is gone, but the people are still here. Delia is one of them. She and her family speak Quechua, the language of the Incas. Except for her mother, they also speak Spanish. All through this valley are ruins of the Inca Empire. From her seat on the bus, Delia is looking down at some of them. The ruins stretch along a mountain slope, far below the winding road. There are buildings whose roofs are long since gone, and there are great shelves, called terraces, dug out from the side of the mountain. These terraces were used in farming. They made the soil level and kept it from washing away in the rain. The terraces were so well made that today they are still used by Delia's people. The bus bumps along toward a town called Cusco. It was the capital of the ancient Inca Empire. Outside of town, the bus stops. Delia, Mariluz, and their father get off. They stand beside more Inca ruins. But these ruins are different. There are huge stone walls everywhere. The stones fit smoothly together like the pieces of a puzzle. Yet some of them are as big as trucks. The Incas had no heavy modern equipment. They had no motors. How did they move these stones? How did they pile them so high? There is wonder in this place. Delia can feel it as she and Mariluz run to explore the ruins. The girls play hide and seek. Then they sit down on the steps of an ancient fortress, and their father tells them once more about the Incas. Delia's favorite part is when he describes the ruins of Machu Picchu. Perched on a peak in the Andes, this mysterious city was forgotten for years, then discovered again in 1911. At Machu Picchu is the famous Intihuatana, or hitching post of the sun. Some say it was used by Inca astronomers to predict how long the days would be. Delia dreams of going there to see it someday. In the meantime, there are other dreams and other duties. When the sun dips low in the sky, Delia and her father and sister head back home. On Monday morning, the week begins once again. Delia is up at 5 o'clock. While she gets dressed, her mother milks their 3 cows. Delia drinks a glass of this milk for breakfast, along with some cheese her mother has made, and a potato. Then she sets out for school. Delia and the other children of her pueblo go to school in Pisac, over 6 miles down a very steep mountain trail. The walk takes 2½ hours. Last year, Delia slipped on the mountain path and cut her leg on a stone. Her friends helped her up to the road and stopped a car to take her home. Delia's mother put herbs on the leg. Delia likes arriving at school early. She talks with her friends about homework. When school starts, she has 6 classes: math, science, history, civics, geography, and religion. Delia likes math and science best. There are 2 recess periods when she plays games or does her studies. Delia works hard because she wants to be a teacher. School is over at 1 o'clock. Since the trip home is a hard climb, it takes over 3 hours. By the end, Delia's feet seem as heavy as Inca stones. They feel lighter, though, when she sees Mariluz and the dogs waiting for her by the gate. As Delia changes clothes, Mariluz goes to get water. There is a faucet outside connected by pipes to a lake called a reservoir, high above the pueblo. When it's time to water the fields, the reservoir is not full enough for the faucets to work. Then someone in the family must walk up the mountain to get 2 buckets of water. The trip takes 3 hours. Mariluz is glad that today the faucet is working. While her sister is outside, Delia begins to cook supper for the family. She often makes vegetable soup using the many different plants her father grows on their land. One room of the house is used for storing food, and this is where Delia goes first. The potato is the chief food, as it was for the Incas. There are many kinds of potato with different sizes, shapes, colors, and flavors. The papa amarilla, with its nut-like taste, is Delia's favorite. Besides potatoes, Delia's father grows quinoa, corn, cabbage, squash, beans, and many other plants and herbs. Delia gathers the vegetables into a bowl. Then she moves into the kitchen where an open fire is burning. As she cooks, there are squeaking noises from the corner of the kitchen. She throws a cabbage leaf to quiet the cuyes, which are a kind of guinea pig. Since the ancient days of the Incas, cuyes have provided a good source of meat. Delia's family also raises chickens, pigs, and lamb. After supper, Delia does her homework. If there is time, she likes to watch the small black and white TV set. Since the house has no electricity, the set is powered from a car battery. When the battery power gets too low to run the TV, it is used to play the radio. Then, every couple of months, Delia's father takes the battery to be charged. On days when there is no school, Delia and her father sometimes travel to the colorful open-air market in Pisac. They might buy some bread, salt, matches, or shoes. They sell vegetables the family has raised and clothing they have made. When Delia gets home, she takes a few minutes to relax. During these happy times, she and the other children might jump rope or play jacks. She might just sit and talk with her parents. On most Saturdays, Delia herds the cows and sheep. She and Mariluz take them 8 miles up the mountain where there are good pastures. For lunch, the girls eat charqui. This is the Quechua word for dried meat. It's where our word jerky comes from. Delia likes herding the sheep because there is not much to do. She can sit curled up to keep warm as she knits clothes. She thinks about school and the things she sees on TV. But mostly, her mind drifts off to the high places and the old times when Incas ruled the land. Mystery was in these mountains. It still is.
Okenna greets the sun. There is a whisper in the night. Wake up! Wake up! 10-year-old Okenna stirs in his sleeping bag. He hears someone slipping out of the tent. Who woke him? Okenna's younger brothers are asleep. His father always comes and goes as silently as a cloud spirit. It must have been his older brother, Tikak. A freezing Arctic wind twirls inside the tent. Okenna pokes his head outside. A ground squirrel peers at him in the soft yellow light. It is now June and midnight, but the golden sun rolls above the horizon like a fiery soccer ball. It will not set until August. He looks around. If Tikak's rifle has moved from its usual spot, he is going somewhere. The wind may break the thinning sea ice, making sled travel dangerous, but the rifle is gone, and so are the dogs. Okenna panics. Once before, he missed a chance to join his brother on a trip. That time, Tikak returned triumphant, pulling the body of a ringed seal behind him. The family ate some. The rest was stored under icy rocks for use later. Barefoot, Okenna runs down the beach. He nearly stumbles over Tikak's sled. His big brother looks at Okenna's red toes, grins, and starts to harness the barking dogs. Tikak does not ask if Okenna wants to go. He sees that his little brother is dying to join him. And Okenna does not ask if he can come. Tikak's grin tells Okenna that his brother will wait for him. Tikak and Okenna are Inuit. The word means real people in their Inuktitut language. They are also known as Eskimos. This is an Indian word meaning eaters of raw meat, but they do not like this name. In the Inuit culture, questions are thought to be unnecessary and even rude. When asked something, people might say, "Achoo." This roughly means, "Don't ask me. I don't know any better than you do. Besides, you can guess the answer if you have been watching." Instead of using questions, the Inuit learn by looking for clues, as if they were detectives. Okenna runs back to the tent. He dresses and grabs his fur-rimmed parka. Then he yells at the dogs to move and hops on the sled behind Tikak. The loaded sled glides onto the highway of the frozen sea. The ice is getting mushy during the day, but it refreezes when the night comes. All winter long, Okena waited for the sun. He and his family spent those months in their one-room house in the tiny village of Umingmaktok, place where the musk oxen are many. Theirs was the only town in Canada's Arctic with no kablunet, white people. There were no roads, no television, no church, and no school. The store ran out of goods in January. But the Umingmaktormuts liked to live by themselves. They got much of their food from the land and sea around them. Sometimes they visited their relatives in distant Arctic towns. They giggled at television shows. They sampled fried chicken and rode in the back of pickups bounding on rough town roads. But they did not want to move there. Too boring, they said. In winter, they did not see the sun for 4 months. On many days, the cold reached 40 degrees below zero. The wind whipped snow into stinging darts. This was a lazy time of long naps and longer stories. The tales were of spirits and animals with special powers, told in a low voice by Okena's grandmother. Okena listened, munching on mipku, dried caribou meat. The boy loved the stories but longed to be outside. He dreamed of turning into a gray wolf and roaming the frozen world. One day last March, the sun rolled out and Okena's parents got busy. They sewed new clothes for the family and ice booties for the sled dogs. They made rounded ulu knives. They repaired the old outboard motor for their boat. Early in June, the family moved to its summer camp, 40 miles from Umingmaktok. Pitching a tent, they waited for good weather. The good weather has come, and Okena is thrilled. He and his brother have been speeding across the ice for several hours now. The boy is as excited as the dogs, who are running and growling at each other. Soon he feels tired. On the moving sled, Okena crawls under a caribou skin and falls asleep. When he wakes up, the sled stands still. A pot of brown spotted eggs is boiling on an old stove on the beach. Teacock must have found seagull nests. Okena's mouth twists with hunger. Gratefully, he pulls out a hot egg and eats it, savoring each bite. Its yolk is huge. It seems to smile at him, so he smiles back pleasantly. All around him, the snow is melting into bubbling rivulets. Thousands of birds honk from the cliff. The sun is so hot, he strips off his parka. He begins to run in big circles, his fingers touching the ground. Now he is a sled dog, now a caribou, now a wolverine. He chants. There is a joy in feeling the warmth come to the great world and seeing the sun follow its old footprints in the summer night. Ee-ya, ee-ya-ya. He throws himself on a bed of orange lichens and breathes deeply. But where is Teacock? Okena gets up and heads toward the sound of rushing water. This is Ekalulia, a river full of glistening Arctic charfish. And there is Teacock in the middle of the river. He is jumping over boulders, his fishing spear flashing in the sun. So many fish! Teacock must have worked hard all morning, while Okena slept like a log. Since you can only count to 5 in Inuktitut, Okena thinks there are as many fish as there are fingers and toes of 3 people. He helps Teacock carry the shiny bodies, feeling their precious weight. His mother and sisters will clean the fish. Then they will dry the meat for the long winter ahead. No vegetables, grain, or fruit can be grown in the tundra where Okena lives. His family eats meat and fish. Seal flippers, caribou tongues, and bone marrow are highly prized. But most of all, Okena loves the crunchy fish eyeballs. The trip back to camp is long. Okena knows whining will not make it shorter. The day is hot and the ice has begun to melt. The boys use their sled as a bridge across the cracks. When they get home, Okena dives inside the tent and gulps down a belly full of tea. It is midnight again. That day is the start of summer for him. Warm days bring mosquitoes, but they also bring swims in the creeks, trips to the store, visits to the camps of other Inuit families, and hours of play. His mother, Tonukahak, spends her days carving soapstone figures. These she sells. She never chases him off to bed. She knows that when he gets tired, he will crawl into his sleeping bag. No one scolds him or tells him no. The Inuit feel that children learn not by do's and don'ts, but by imitating those they admire most, often an older brother or sister. Fall comes. The tundra brightens with red and orange hues. Berries ripen and burst on Okena's tongue, filling his mouth with sweet and tart juices. One evening he wanders away from the camp to inspect Inukshuks. These are man-like stone figures on a nearby ridge. They were built by his ancestors. Okena rounds a rocky outcrop and freezes. There, staring him in the face, stands a large gray wolf. Surprised, the boy and the animal barely breathe. Suddenly, the wolf takes a deep whiff of Okena's scent and is gone. The boy does not run away or call for help. He thinks of a story told by his grandmother. There are certain animals, she said, that never attack human children. These animals have lost their brothers and sisters. They feel sad and desperately try to find new ones. They are kind, but very, very shy. Just like my wolf, thinks Okena. I think he wants me for a brother. Okena walks slowly back to the tent. He bundles up in his sleeping bag. Closing his eyes, he says quietly, I have a new brother, the wolf. And he sleeps.
The Water People. Perched on the back of her family's water buffalo, Yibo starts to laugh. The animal is snorting so loudly she cannot help it. Yibo urges the buffalo on, tapping its sides with her bare feet and waving her stick. The animal obediently plows into the river. Now only its nostrils stick out above the current, like funny bullfrogs. Yibo laughs again. She is glad she came to the river. Its murky current flows past the rice paddies just behind Mangsha, Yibo's village. Everything is so green here. Each moving bamboo stalk seems to whisper a different song. The June morning is already hot and humid, but the river, which flows from the grasshopper green mountains rimming the valley, is deliciously cool. Yibo is not alone. On the riverbank, she sees other buffalo grazing. Nearby, children swim in the gurgling rapids. Women wash clothes, graceful in their tight blouses and flowery skirts. From between their lips come flashes of gold. When I grow up, I'll go to the market and see the man called Dentist, dreams Yibo. I'll ask him to cover my teeth with gold. Then I can look rich and beautiful too. Yibo lives in China, a country with more than 1 billion people. But she and her family are not Chinese. They are Thai. Since much of their work and play centers around ponds and a river, they are sometimes called water people. There are about 760,000 Thai. All of them live in the province of Yunnan, in the south of China. They wear traditional Thai clothes and have their own holidays and customs. They are a small, separate group of people called a minority. There are 55 different minorities in China. The mountainous area where the Thai live is a lush kingdom of plants, always warm. Trees spread their huge leaves, shaped like umbrellas and bird wings. Butterflies are everywhere. Some flowers are as big as wash basins. There are only 2 seasons here, dry from November till April, and wet during the rest of the year. Wet seasons are caused by monsoons, strong winds blowing from the faraway ocean. They bring heavy rains. Without monsoons, the rice and tea plants and the great fruit-bearing trees would die. Yibo is afraid of the tigers and boa constrictors, which live deep in the forest. But she would like to see the peacocks, monkeys, and especially deer. Her mother told her the land of the Thai was discovered thousands of years ago by hunters chasing a golden deer. It led them over 77 emerald peaks and 99 blue rivers until they came upon a golden lake. The animal leaped in and disappeared. Enchanted, the young hunters settled around the lake with their families. If only she could find that deer. Loud splashes wake Yibo from her dream. Some boys are swimming toward her. Yibo, who is only 8, feels uneasy. They may pull her off the water buffalo and dunk her. One boy is already holding its tail. Without looking, she slaps him with her stick. "Hey, it's your brother you are hitting, you feisty bird," he says. It is Ayun, her 10-year-old brother. He looks at her closely. "Were you scared?" he asks. Yibo admits she was, but says she is fine now. She is never afraid when he is around. But last winter, Ayun and other boys left their cozy bamboo houses in the village. They moved to the big Buddhist monastery at the top of the hill. There was a great ceremony. Families and guests ate ground beef with spices and puffed rice mixed with brown sugar. People carried money trees. These were decorated with things the boys might need, such as toothbrushes and money for the monks. Yibo still remembers the fireworks exploding against the dark sky. After that night, Ayun began his studies at the monastery. He also received a new name. It is Mai-Un, Mai meaning new. One day, he may take holy vows and become a monk. He often visits his family during the day, but at night he must return to the monastery. "I came yesterday, but you were not home," says Ai-Mayun. "Mother and I went to the big market on the other side of the river," she explains excitedly. "I saw women who wore silver coins and green beetles. Mother said they are called Aini and come from a village deep in the forest. I couldn't stop looking at them, so I kept tripping." "That's what happens to all curious girls," says Ai-Mayun. "We boys never look around." They both laugh so hard that Yibo loses her balance and slips into the river. She pulls Ai-Mayun after her. Wet and happy, the children take their animal back to the village. They tie him under their small bamboo house. Like all houses in Mangsha, it is built on high stilts. It has a living room, 1 bedroom, and a sunny porch. But the house is empty. Where are their parents? The children walk down the dusty street. They wave at their uncles building a new house and shout at friends playing with slingshots. They laugh at the man selling drinks. He has fallen asleep. The children nearly bump into their grandfather, who stands in the middle of the path. And here is their cousin, Yitan. She carries her fat baby brother. Yibo gives him some water from a folded tree leaf. Around the corner, an old man is turning tea leaves with his feet to dry the leaves faster. Ai Mayun greets him respectfully. The man asks, "Will you become a monk and grow up to be a man of wisdom?" "Maybe," replies Ai Mayun, "if I work hard and our parents can pay for my studies. Or maybe I'll go home and look for a wife, a girl as nice as my sister." Yibo likes that. They find their parents by the village ponds. Father is fishing. The children help him, beating the water with sticks to drive fish into his net. Out on another pond, two women bob on a tire tube, gathering water chestnuts. They paddle to the edge of the pond, lift their heavy bundles of chestnuts, and nimbly jump to the shore. Yibo no longer knows if she wants to be rich and beautiful or strong and independent like these women. Maybe both. A quick shower falls from the monsoon clouds above. The valley fills with light mist. It is getting dark, and Ai Mayun must return to the monastery. The children hurry up the path, hand in hand. Yibo thinks that in his new robe, Ai Mayun looks older, wiser, but she misses him. "Why does he want to live in that old place?" she mutters to herself. He is her best friend, and she does not want to lose him. Yet she knows that many Thai parents who can afford it send their sons to monasteries. The boys learn about Buddhism, the religion of the Thai. They read the sutras, sacred texts written in an old Thai script. She also knows that as the youngest child, she will be expected to live with her parents until they die, and she's proud. Ai Mayun tells her that each morning he chants and prays in the temple. Later he sweeps the monastery with the other boys. He practices playing an elephant foot drum, used during religious ceremonies. He has lessons. Even if he does not become a monk, people will always respect him for what he knows. "The monks teach me stories about the past," says Ai Mayun. "They show me how to draw, paint, and sculpt. When I get older, I'll also learn how to cure sick people. I'll study the sky, too." "Do you watch the stars?" asks Yibo. "Yes, especially the big pink one you like so much," he says. "I think about you, and also about Mother and Father. They must raise many pigs and chickens to pay for my studies. Do you know that parents who send their sons to the monastery receive gold stars for their effort? When they die, these stars will erase what they did wrong during their lives." "Mother and Father never did anything wrong," says Yibo. Her brother puts his arms around her. "We all do, don't you?" "Not when you are around," Yibo answers. Thinking about Ai Mayun watching the same stars in the black silk of the night, she feels good.
Please fast forward the tape to the end of this side.
Then turn the tape over and you're ready to play the other side.
The Southwestern Company presents My Fun with Reading.
Book 4, Stories About Careers.
Open Book 4 to the Contents page. You'll see that the stories in this book are Circus Kids, The Girl with Two Lives, and Project What I Want to Be.
On the last page of each story are two word lists. What does it mean and how do you say it? That's where you go if you're having trouble with hard words.
Whenever you hear this sound, please turn the page. Let's try it.
Now you should be on the page that says Circus Kids. Are you ready to read? Here we go.
Circus Kids. What comes to your mind when you think of school? Maybe you imagine yourself at a desk, watching your teacher at the blackboard. School is different for Fawn Bélanger and her friends Corinne, Noémie, and Annie. The four girls belong to a circus troupe. Along with their arithmetic and spelling, they practice headstands and trampoline jumps. That's not the only difference between their school and yours. You walk, ride, or take the bus to your school. Fawn and her friends take their school with them wherever they go. They might have lessons in 4 or 5 cities in one school year. Their teachers travel with the circus as it moves from city to city and from country to country. Sometimes the classroom is outside in the sunshine, and sometimes it's under the big black and white tent where the circus performers practice. Fawn and her friends are members of the Cirque Du Soleil. The name is French for Circus of the Sun. Every night, the girls put on colorful makeup and bright costumes. Then they perform breathtaking tricks for hundreds of people who come to the big Cirque Du Soleil tent. Fawn is 12 years old. She wears a red costume and dances with the grown-up performers in the show. Her friends Annie and Corinne ride a bicycle around the tent. That doesn't sound too hard until you realize that they're both riding the same bicycle. So are 11 other people. Noémie has to have a good sense of balance for her trick. She climbs to the top of a tower of chairs that is about 12 feet high. When she gets to the top, she throws her arms into the air to show she isn't afraid. The Cirque du Soleil isn't like most circuses. There are no lions or tigers or elephants. In fact, there are no animals at all. Sometimes the Cirque du Soleil looks and sounds more like a rock concert than a circus. The band that travels with the circus plays rock music during the show. Often, the people in the circus dance and perform in a fog of dry ice, the way rock stars sometimes do. Fawn, Corinne, Noémie, and Annie are among people from around the world who perform in the Cirque du Soleil. The four girls are all from Canada, the home of the circus. But there are also people from the United States, Bulgaria, and France. Talking to the other performers is almost like a geography lesson. Vasily Demenchukov is an acrobat and a juggler. He and his friend Vladimir Kakail were acrobats in the Soviet Union. They came all the way from Moscow to join the circus. Wang Hong also had to travel far to be part of the Cirque du Soleil. Her home is in China. She learned to be a juggler in a Chinese circus. There are also 5 French trapeze artists, 2 acrobats from Poland, and a tightrope walker from England. When the whole troupe meets, there can be conversations in 5 or 6 languages going on at once. Most of the circus troupe members are adults, but each year there are at least 3 or 4 children under the big top. That's what circus people call the large tent where they perform. Fawn and her friends are acrobats. They know how to do perfect cartwheels and backflips. They also know how to jump off the end of what looks like a seesaw and do a somersault in the air. When they put on their sparkling costumes and do their show under the big top, the crowd cheers and claps. Crowds all over the world love the circus.
Fawn and her friends have performed their act in the United States and Canada. It's an exciting life. It's also hard work. Each morning, the girls meet with their tutor, a special teacher who goes wherever the circus goes. The tutor teaches the young acrobats and the children of the adult performers. Fawn and her friends study 2 languages, French and English, plus all the other school subjects. They have tests and reports just as you do. After meeting with the tutor, the girls might go to their trailers to write a letter or do some homework. Then they spend the afternoon practicing their circus acts. This practice is another kind of homework. Circus performers are like ballet dancers or athletes training for the Olympics. If they don't practice at least 2 hours a day, their bodies will get stiff. Then they might not be able to perform the difficult tricks they do in the show each night. Circus performers practice so much they can do things that look almost impossible. One of the adults in the Cirque Du Soleil is a contortionist, someone who can twist her body into odd shapes. At times, she looks like a human pretzel. Fawn and her friends are young, but they've already been training for years to be part of the circus. Fawn knew when she was only 6 that she wanted to be an acrobat. She started doing gymnastics as practice that same year. Since she's 12 now, that means she's been training to be in the circus for half of her life. Fawn and most of the other children who are in the Cirque Du Soleil trained at a special circus school in Montreal. About 165 young people come to the school each year to learn about performing. They take courses in juggling and clowning and trapeze. They learn how to do acrobatic tricks without getting hurt. It sounds like fun until you have to do it for 5 or 6 hours a day. Instead of a test at the end of the year, the children perform the tricks they've learned for an audience that comes to the school. Some of the best students in the circus school, like Fawn, go on to join the Cirque Du Soleil. But even there, they never really stop studying. Though they already have special parts to play in the show, they're always working on something new. At the afternoon practices, Fawn and her friends try out new tricks. They also do the old ones over and over again to make them even better. That might mean doing the same somersault 15 or 20 times to make sure it's just right. After the children rehearse, they take a break to eat supper. Meals are served in the canteen, a big kitchen that travels with the circus. Everyone lives and eats and plays together for months at a time when the circus is on tour. That makes being part of the Cirque du Soleil almost like being part of a family. But it's a family in which you have 80 or 90 aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters. After the supper break, it's time to get ready for the show. The girls put on makeup so even the people sitting far away can see their faces. They carefully put on their costumes. They might take a minute to rehearse a dance step one last time. Then they wait for the music that means the show is starting. When the band starts, the circus magic begins. The first group of acrobats races into the ring, the part of the tent where the performances take place. They dance and wave to the crowd as the band plays the Cirque du Soleil songs. In the next 2.5 hours, all the performers do the tricks they've been practicing so hard. Vasily comes into the tent. He sits down at a table covered with a tablecloth. Is he going to eat dinner? Not exactly. He puts one chair on top of the table, then another, then another. Finally, there are 8 chairs stacked on top of each other. Then Vasily does a one-handed handstand at the top of the stack, holding a cake in his other hand. Next comes his friend Vladimir. Vladimir walks slowly into the big top and wraps 2 thick ropes around his arms. The ropes are attached to a pulley at the top of the tent. There are 4 circus helpers holding on to the other end. As Vladimir runs in a large circle, the helpers, known as La Corporation, pull on the ropes. As he runs, he lifts off the ground like a bird taking flight. The crowd gasps. Vladimir is flying. Wang Hong's trick looks simple. She has nothing with her in the ring except a chair, 2 red and pink umbrellas, and 4 small rugs. First, she twirls the umbrellas with her toes, tossing them up in the air and catching them with her feet. Then she makes the rugs spin on her fingertips and her toes as if they were flying carpets. Now it's the turn of the young contortionists. Nadine Binet and her friends twist and turn their legs and arms and backs together until they look like a rope with lots of knots in it. The French acrobats fly through the air on their trapezes. One of Fon's friends does a somersault on the tightrope. People dance on stilts that reach nearly to the top of the tent. And of course, there are always the clowns. Before you know it, the show is over. The crowd claps and shouts and whistles as the performers smile and bow. The applause of the crowd makes all the hard work and practice seem worthwhile. Then Fon and her friends hurry off to bed. They have another long day of school and practice ahead of them before the magic of the circus can start again tomorrow night.
The Girl with 2 Lives. The year is 1836. In an Indiana frontier village, Sally Johnson sweeps off the porch of the Golden Eagle Inn. The inn is a friendly place where travelers can stop for food and a night's rest. After sweeping, Sally draws water from the well. Then she goes inside to help prepare the noon meal. The innkeeper, Martha Zimmerman, watches her set the table to make sure things are done properly. In the pantry, Sally slices carrots and potatoes to make a stew. She cooks them in a kettle over the fire because there's no stove. There are no electric lights and no refrigerator. If you told her about such things, she would probably laugh and say you'd been out in the sun too long. And yet, here's someone who looks very much like Sally Johnson, cutting up vegetables by the light of an electric lamp. Behind her are a stove and refrigerator. She's wearing jeans and modern-day glasses. When she smiles, we see braces on her teeth. Who is she? She's a girl with 2 lives. In this life, her name is Penny McDowell. She and her parents live in a suburb of Indianapolis, Indiana. Penny likes rock groups and movie stars. She does homework and watches TV. She plays French horn in the band. And she has one very unusual hobby. Several days a week, Penny puts on rough, old-fashioned clothes and goes to Conner Prairie, a living museum of the American frontier. There she steps into her other life as Sally Johnson, pioneer girl. For Penny, the role of Sally Johnson is more than just a hobby. It's almost a way of life. She grew up in and around Conner Prairie because her mother worked there, playing the parts of other frontier characters. Even at home, Penny is surrounded by things from the past. There are quilts and antique furniture. There are old clocks and a tin wash basin. The house itself is over 100 years old. Penny's mother makes all the clothes she and her daughter wear at Conner Prairie. When Penny tries on a dress, you might almost mistake her for Sally Johnson, if you didn't notice the stereo earphones. Penny is what's known as an interpreter. She interprets or helps people understand what frontier life was like. It's an important job in a very different type of museum. At Conner Prairie, visitors don't just read or hear about history. They walk down the dusty streets of a frontier town. They explore an authentic barn and schoolhouse and store. Everywhere they go, they brush shoulders with characters from the past. One of them is Sally Johnson. "How much do you charge for lunch?" they ask as she puts a kettle on the fire. "Oh, do you mean the noonday meal?" she says. "Around these parts, we call it dinner. It costs 25 cents, but it's worth every penny." A man enters with his wife and young son. "What are the beds like?" he asks. "Good and clean. Only a few bed bugs," she says. "We've still got one bed left for tonight. That should do for the 3 of you." A little girl giggles. "How often do you take a bath?" "Once a week," Sally answers, "whether I need it or not." For these visitors, history may never be the same. To learn about Sally, Penny McDowell goes to the museum library. She reads magazines of the time. She checks out books and articles about 19th century life. She might glance at an information sheet that gives facts about Sally's life. The character of Sally Johnson was made up by the people at the museum based on their findings about real frontier girls. Sally lives on a farm outside of town with her parents, Luke and Sarah Johnson. The family came to Indiana from Kentucky in 1823. Sally doesn't remember the trip because she was still a baby. Sally works at the Golden Eagle Inn to pay off her father's debt. When she's not at the inn, she helps care for her little brother and sister. She might even take a turn in the fields next to her father and older brother. Life is hard in 1836, but Sally finds time to play too. Visitors are often surprised to see her running down the road, pushing a metal hoop in front of her. It's a game pioneer children used to play. Sally can barely read and write. Still, she sometimes goes to school with the other children in town. All ages attend, from 7 to 17. Waiting at the door is the schoolmaster, Caleb Ferguson. When he's not teaching, he has a business making and repairing harnesses. Mr. Ferguson is a stern but kindly man. He drills the children in reading, writing, arithmetic, and history. After school, Sally runs some errands for Mrs. Zimmerman. This is her favorite part of the day because she gets to visit her friends in town. At Whitaker's store, she buys a few supplies from the clerk, Seth Bucher, then gazes longingly at some rock candy. Before leaving, she takes a moment to watch Katie Bend and Molly Cox play checkers. Up the street is a familiar-looking face. It's Penny McDowell's mother. But to Sally Johnson, this woman is the doctor's wife, Harriet Campbell. Hearing the two of them talk, you'd never know that in Sally's other life, they are mother and daughter. Dr. Campbell is out seeing patients today, but Peter Dale is in the office. Peter is the doctor's helper, or apprentice. He's surrounded by strange-looking medical tools and cures of the day. Sally peeks into the Campbell's parlor. There, some young visitors are watching a meeting of the Ladies' Literary Society. These well-dressed women gather once a month to discuss books, magazines, and the latest fashions. As Sally leaves, old Samuel Hastings spots her. Before she can escape, he launches into a story about his adventures in the War of 1812. At the end of the lane, blacksmith Ben Curtis takes a break from the anvil. He gets a drink of water and calls out a greeting to Sally as she walks by. Ben's wife, Mary, asks Sally to come inside and give her a hand. While Mary spins yarn on the spinning wheel, Sally gathers it up and wraps it on a device known as a niddy-noddy. On her way back to the inn, Sally passes the weaver's house. Inside, museum visitors learn what happens to yarn after it's spun. Using a big wooden loom, Grace Fenton weaves together yarns of different colors to form a rug. Across the way, carpenter Daniel McClure shows how he uses a shaving horse to make a table leg. The children who watch are eager to try it themselves. Conner Prairie has just the place for them. It's called the Pioneer Adventure Area. Here, guests can climb onto a shaving horse to see how it works. They can weave, quilt, spin, dip candles, and make soap. When they've finished their activities in that area, they can take a walk on a nature trail or visit the 1823 estate of William Conner, for whom the museum was named. Returning to the village in a horse-drawn wagon, guests see Sally Johnson going about her chores at the Golden Eagle Inn. It's been a long day for the hard-working frontier girl. She still has to make the beds and air out the mattresses. Afterwards, she takes a moment to feed the horses. Later that evening, in a very different world, Penny McDowell phones a girlfriend and watches TV. Her mother braids her hair. Then Penny heads off to bed. As she lies in the darkness, she thinks about all her friends at Conner Prairie, and she smiles. Sally Johnson smiles right along with her.
Project: What I Want to Be. Take a close look. That's me, the one on your far right with the suit neatly pressed, the briefcase at my side, and the confident look of a man dressed for success. You might be wondering what the five of us are doing dressed up like this. It isn't Halloween, and we certainly don't wear these clothes to school every day. Today we're presenting our team project to Mr. Green's 5th grade class at Franklin School. 4 weeks ago, Mr. Green chose teams and gave each team a different assignment. Ours was to think about the future and present our ideas to the class. At first we thought of really strange things. Automobiles that would fly, robots that would do your homework, a pepperoni pizza in the form of a pill. But then we decided to look a little closer to home. Instead of thinking about what would happen 100 years from now, we decided to look at the near future. What would each of us be doing in 15 or 20 years? We would call our project What I Want to Be. Each of us would read about and present careers that interested us. That's how it started. Here's where it ended a month later. Jim, Maria, Stephanie, Kathy, and me, Eric, dressed up like a construction worker, doctor, ballerina, police officer, and business executive. Say hi to Maria. She's as smart as she looks. She especially loves to study tough subjects like math and science. Maria wondered what it might be like to have a job using those skills. If you like people and don't faint at the sight of blood, you might want to be a doctor. A doctor works with patients to find out why they feel bad, then treats them with medicine or surgery. Doctors also like to see patients who are well to help them stay healthy. A veterinarian is a doctor too. But instead of boys and girls, a vet's patients might be cows and goats. Like doctors, vets diagnose disease and give treatment. Although many vets deal only with small animals like dogs, cats, and birds, many treat larger farm animals such as horses and sheep. Would you enjoy working in a laboratory and watching tiny creatures through a microscope? Then you should consider a career as a biochemist. Biochemists conduct lab experiments and study organisms that you and I can't see with the bare eye. As a biochemist, you might discover a cure for the common cold or a way to improve the food we eat. If you like math problems and using the computer for things other than playing games, you might think about a career as a mathematician. You could work for a large company to help keep track of the business. Or you could be a math professor and teach at a college. Either way, your days would be spent trying to solve math puzzles. Here's Jim. As you may have guessed from the picture, he loves to work with his hands. He builds things such as tree houses and model cars. He also enjoys helping his dad with fix-it projects around the house. Jim reported on 4 careers he might enjoy. Before anything gets built, a car, an office building, a piece of equipment, somebody needs to draw the plan. A drafter works with architects, engineers, scientists, or designers to turn the ideas into drawings that can easily be followed. The final drawings show what the item should look like from all sides. Think of the challenge of building a 20-story office building. The building contractor is the person who coordinates the activities of all the people involved. Electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and many other workers. Because of bad weather and other delays, this job takes patience and determination to keep projects on schedule. Machinists use sharp cutting tools to grind and shape metal into almost anything. Parts for cars, airplanes, and equipment. Any error, even the size of a hair, could cause a problem. Machinists must wear earplugs, special glasses, and heavy aprons to protect them from noise and flying metal. Computers help run every kind of business, from the federal government to the corner market. But have you ever thought about what happens when a computer breaks down? Computer service technicians keep large computer systems running. They don't wait until the computer stops. Instead, they visit their electronic patients on a regular basis to prevent trouble. Kathy wants a job serving and protecting the public. She reported on careers in which she could do just that. A teacher is responsible for helping kids like us develop into good citizens. Teachers try to give students individual attention to help them learn the basic skills and knowledge they will need later in life. Many parents find teaching a good career, since the hours and vacation schedules are the same as their children's. A firefighter must be strong and brave, and because firefighters live together for days at a time, they need to get along well with other people. At the scene of a fire, some connect hoses to fire hydrants. Others put up ladders or manage the water pumps. Between alarms, firefighters spend time practicing their skills and cleaning and repairing the equipment. Police officers sometimes face danger, but not all their work is the cops and robbers kind that you see on television. Some police officers have less dangerous jobs, such as identifying fingerprints, analyzing handwriting, and directing crowds or traffic. If you've ever been on an airplane, you've experienced the work of an air traffic controller. These are the people who track the movements of all the planes in an area. Air traffic controllers have to make quick decisions and give clear instructions. They must also have excellent eyesight. Stephanie, our team's ballerina, is very creative. At times you can catch her staring off into space, thinking about a story to write, a picture to draw, or a new way of entertaining her family and friends. Stephanie entertained us with several careers. Do you daydream the way Stephanie does? Most artists do. They love creating what they have imagined. Some artists draw or paint. Some sculpt or carve figures out of rock and clay. There is no limit to what an artist can do because there is no limit to the imagination. Ballet, anyone? Professional dancers make it look easy because they practice many hours each day. Some dancers like to perform in public. Some choreograph or compose dances for others. Still others choose to teach in public or private schools. Have you ever wondered who is responsible for the look of your favorite poster, book, or magazine? Graphic designers sketch out their ideas, then get photographs, illustrations, or computer images that bring their sketches to life. A graphic designer watches over the final printing of the project to make sure the colors are just right. If you don't like practicing, you probably wouldn't want to be a professional musician. Depending on what instruments they play, musicians might be in a symphony orchestra or in a rock, jazz, or country group. Since most performances take place at night, musicians work when most other people are home. The next time you open a morning newspaper, consider what it's like to be a writer. Newspaper writers interview people and attend events to collect the information they need for an accurate story. Because papers come out every day, most newspaper writers must work quickly. Here I am again. Like my dad, I want an important job downtown, helping to run a business. I like the idea of dressing up each day, looking sharp, and carrying my briefcase to the office. One career I looked at was banker. Bankers help families and businesses manage their money. In addition, if people need money to buy a car or house, a banker can lend it to them. As you may have guessed, bankers need to be very honest since they work with other people's money. Accountants keep track of how much money a company makes and how much it spends. Just like us, a company's goal is to have allowance money left over at the end of the week to save for things it really wants. I might want to be an attorney. On TV, lawyers are usually trying to convince the judge and jury that their clients are innocent. These lawyers are criminal attorneys. Another type of attorney specializes in business law. This person prepares contracts and helps companies understand laws that affect their business. Rather than go to work for someone else, I'm also thinking of starting my own business someday. But being a small business owner is hard work. You hire and train your employees, keep track of the money, make and sell your product, even sweep the floors and turn off the lights at night. Well, that's it for our presentation on careers. But before we go, we want you to meet Joshua, the sixth member of our team. He's the one behind the camera. Joshua not only took our pictures, he found the photos of each career. Maybe you saw a career that interested you. If you did, you might want to read more about it. Then Joshua will be glad to come over and take your picture too.